3 years ago, when I experienced my biggest failure, I thought my life was over. But what happened 48 hours later became the best turning point of my life. How? With the mental formula I'm going to teach you in this video. You'll experience the same transformation too. Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to Mental Force Lab. What I'm going to tell you today might be the most powerful mental transformation story you've ever heard in your life. This video you're watching right now is the result of a painful experience I had exactly 3 years ago. That day I experienced such a big failure that I felt completely collapsed. A big project in my business life had failed. Everything I had worked on for years was gone. People around me were looking at me with disappointment. That night when I lay down in my bed, I thought, is this it? All this effort, all this hope, all these dreams, was it all for nothing? Maybe you've experienced similar feelings. Maybe you too felt helpless after a failure. But right at that moment, I was about to discover something that would change my life. 48 hours later, the same failure became my greatest strength. How? I'll explain step by step in this video. Thousands of people have applied this mental formula I'm going to teach you today, and all of them said their lives completely changed. When you learn this formula too, every failure will make you stronger. First, let's understand this. Is failure really a bad thing, or are we perceiving it wrong? Neuroscientist Dr. Carol Dweck from Stanford University researched failure for 20 years. What she discovered was shocking. 2 different reactions occur in our brain at the moment of failure. First reaction, fixed mind model, amygdala, fear center, activates. Stress hormones rise. I am inadequate, thought dominates. Brain switches to protection mode, avoids new attempt. Second reaction, growth mind model. Prefrontal cortex, problem-solving center kicks in. Dopamine, learning hormone, is released. What can I learn from this experience? Thought dominates. Brain switches to adaptation mode, focuses on developing new strategies. Here's the basic secret of the 48-hour formula. You can decide which reaction to choose. According to Harvard Business School research, 87% of successful entrepreneurs achieve their greatest successes after experiencing a major failure. Why? Because they know the formula for turning failure into mental strength. Now I'll tell you step by step the formula I discovered that night and that changed my life. Hour 06, shock absorption phase. The first 6 hours are critical, because during this time it's determined which mode your brain will switch to. Step 1, accept the emotional storm. First 2 hours. When you experience failure, don't suppress your emotions. This is the biggest mistake. Anger, disappointment, sadness, feel them all, but in a controlled way. Here's what I did that night. I experienced my anger at myself for 30 minutes. I poured my emotions onto paper. Very important. I said, yes, I feel very bad right now, and this is normal. Why it works? UCLA researchers showed that naming and accepting emotions reduces the amygdala's overreactivity by Step 2, responsibility analysis, hours. At this stage, ask yourself 3 questions. What is my responsibility in this outcome? What were the factors I couldn't control? 3, if I experience the same situation again, what would I do? These questions are very critical because they help you move from victim mentality to power mentality. Step 3, emotional reset protocol. Hours 5, take a 20-minute walk, activate blood circulation, take a shower, symbolic cleansing, eat something healthy, nourish the brain, sleep for 8 hours, very critical. Hour 6:24, reframe process phase. This stage was the moment that changed my life. Step 4, story-changing technique. Hours 7. When I woke up, I asked myself this question: how will this failure tell me a story 10 years from now? Then I realized this: every great success story definitely has a rock-bottom moment. Steve Jobs being fired from Apple, Oprah being fired from her first job, Einstein's first articles being rejected. At that moment, I understood this failure was the rock-bottom moment of my story. Now it was time to rise from there. Step 5, lesson extraction protocol. Hours 12. I wrote these on a paper. What I learned: listed 15 items. Which skills I need to develop? 8 items. How I would do it next time. 12 items. This list turned failure into a mental university. Step 6, power discovery exercise. Hours 8. I asked myself these questions. What strengths did I discover by overcoming this difficulty? Who else could be as resilient as me in this situation? How did this experience make me stronger? Hour 24-48, momentum build phase. Step 7, creating new vision. Hours I started imagining where this failure would take me. How would I look as a more experienced person? Who did I want to become, and how was this failure taking me there? Step 8. Taking first action hours. At the end of the 48th hour, I took a small but meaningful step. This was very important because transition from victim mentality to action mentality, you are in control, message to my brain. Creating momentum. The change I experienced at the end of the 48th hour was incredible. Mental changes. My perspective on failure completely changed. My self-confidence increased. My fear of the future was replaced by excitement. My problem-solving ability improved. Emotional changes. My emotional resilience increased. My stress tolerance rose. I found inner peace. I became more positive. Behavioral changes. I became more willing to take risks. I started producing more creative solutions. My relationships with people strengthened. I set bigger goals. Science also supports why this formula works. Neuroplasticity, brain flexibility, research. According to research by Dr. Alvaro Pasqualeone from Harvard Medical School, the brain can establish new neural connections within. Traumatic experiences can be strengthening when processed correctly. Reframing technique physically changes brain structure. Post-traumatic growth theory. 30-year research by Dr. Richard Tedeschi from University of North Carolina. 80% of people come out stronger after major difficulties. This growth occurs in 5 areas. Finding meaning in life. 2. Deepening relationships. 3. Increased sense of personal power. 4. Recognizing new opportunities. 5. Spiritual development. Resilience neuroscience. MIT researchers discovered resilience is not genetic, it's a learnable skill. People who do correct mental exercises after failure experience permanent positive changes in their brains. These changes make it easier to overcome future difficulties. Story 1. Sarah, 32. When my first company went bankrupt, my world collapsed. After applying this formula, I established a new company within 6 months. Now, 3 years later, I'm 10 times more successful than my first company. Without that failure, I could never have achieved this success. Story 2. Mike, 28. I thought my career was over due to injury. With this formula, within 48 hours, I decided to become a coach instead of an injured athlete. Now I'm a national team coach. My biggest failure became my biggest opportunity. Story 3. Emma, 30. When the project I worked on for years was rejected, I was going to quit art. After applying this formula, I developed a new art style based on the experience of rejection. Without that rejection, I would never have found this original style. Common mistakes. Mistake 1. Rushing through the first 6 hours, skipping the emotional process, trying to be positive, immediate. Solution. Give enough time to each phase. The emotional process is very important. Getting into I wish I had done it this way loop. Trying to change the past. Perfectionist approach. Solution. Focus on preparation for the future, not regret for the past. Mistake 3. Isolating. Not talking to anyone. Rejecting social support. Trying to solve by staying alone. Success strategies. Surround yourself with people who will understand you during this process. Stay away from negative people. You can get mentoring. Strategy 2. Documentation. Write every step. Record emotional changes so you can see your progress. Strategy 3. Patience. 48 hours is a process, not a miracle. Allow yourself to go through each stage. Backward steps are normal. Bonus 1. Failure resume technique. A professor from Princeton University developed this technique. List all your failures. Write what you learned from each one. See how these failures strengthened you. This technique completely changes your perception of failure. Bonus 2. Future self-visualization. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. How does that person look at this failure? How has that experience shaped them? You can also look from that perspective. Bonus 3. Mentor match. Research successful people who experienced the same failure, read their stories. Contact them if possible. See them as mental mentors. Bonus 4. Impact amplification. How can you make this experience beneficial to others? Who can you inspire with this story? Once you apply this formula correctly, your life changes permanently. After 1 month, your fear of failure decreases. Your willingness to take risks increases. Your self-confidence strengthens. You produce more creative solutions. After 6 months, your mental resilience multiplies. You start seeing failure as opportunity. Your leadership qualities develop. People around you notice your change. After 1 year, You become a completely different person. This formula kicks in automatically. You can guide others. The word failure disappears from your vocabulary. Transform not only your own mind, but also your environment. Close circle strategy. Share this perspective with your family and friends. Listen to their failure stories. Apply this formula together. Create a supportive community. Work-life approach. Have experience sharing sessions with your team. Normalize the right to make mistakes. Scientific principles behind this formula. Cognitive reframing. Seeing the same event from different perspectives. Developing more functional thinking styles. Adversarial growth. Psychology of gaining strength from difficulties. Relationship between stress and growth. Anti-fragility concept. Meaning-making process. Power of finding meaning in difficult experiences. Healing effect of storytelling. Connection between purpose and motivation. Maybe you're experiencing a failure right now. Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe you think this time it's really over. But let me tell you this. The greatest victories come after the greatest failures. And you, yes you, are ready to experience this transformation. Don't take this formula just as information. Apply it at the next failure, because this is not just a video. This is the beginning of your new life. Remember, failure is not the end, it's the beginning. 48 hours is enough for a miracle. The strongest person is the one who falls the most. The most beautiful pages of your story haven't been written yet. If this video touched your life, hit the like button, share your own failure story in the comments. Let's strengthen each other. Don't forget to subscribe because I share mental power and transformation content every week. Finally, remember this. Even this video you're watching right now is the fruit of my failure 3 years ago. If that failure hadn't happened, this video wouldn't exist. You wouldn't hear these powerful messages. This is the magic of failure. When you turn it into victory, not only you, but everyone around you becomes stronger. Are you ready to meet a new you in 4? Until we meet in the next video, keep discovering your power.